Welcome back, one and all, to the podcast. Ben and Landon have an amazing episode for you today, but they did have some technical difficulties in getting everything ready to rock and roll. So there's going to be a little abrupt end at the end of the show. It's going to be slightly more choppy than usual because Ben's brilliant self had some technical difficulties, but the episode is a great one. It's off-season buys and sells. This is the kind of thing that I really enjoy listening to, so I really hope you enjoy it as well. So just be prepared, a little choppy at the end, but I'll see you at the very end of the episode to close things out. And without any further ado, let's hop into it with Landon and with Ben.
Welcome back in to Scramble Drill's Dynasty podcast. Ben Watts, Landon Davis here with you tonight, doing what we always do, talking Dynasty football. Dynasty fantasy football. We love it to almost an unhealthy amount, but I mean, I'm not seeking help if that's what you're asking.
No, I mean, we are smack dab in the middle of Dynasty season. And we were just talking about, basically all the non-draft off-season dust has settled. So we know a lot about the outlook of next year for a lot of players. Now the draft can shake everything up, but we're full in the swing of it, man.
Yeah, if you are paying attention to fantasy football right now, watching videos or listening to, especially if you listen to our podcast, because we're not, like we always say, we're not a big podcast. Wouldn't mind being a big podcast, but we're just not. We do this for more our own pleasure than anything else. But if you're listening to this stuff, if you're paying attention to fantasy right now, you're not a casual. You are an absolute degenerate.
If you are,
I absolutely love it.
I don't care what you're doing. If you're listening to one of these shows right now in March, what is it, March 19th? Yeah, you are not a casual.
You are desperately looking for content. Even small guys like us, like, I just need something to listen to. I respect it because I do the same thing. Like, I just listen to random people.
Well, Ben, we're going to try to help the people out today. We're going to try to give them some advice that they can take, hopefully right now in their leagues, to put them over the edge next year. So
it's Dynasty content, but it's not rookie content because, like, so much right now, and rightfully so, is focused on rookies. Even this show, Josh and I did wide receivers. Just yesterday we recorded the wide receiver episode. We're going to do quarterbacks and tight ends coming soon, and there's going to be a lot of draft content coming from us. Landon, you'll probably be a part of a whole lot of it too. So rookies are obviously at the forefront. But you said this before the show. There's other players in the NFL right now other than rookies.
Right.
There's a whole lot happening right now.
A lot of the focus should be on rookies, right? That's what's exciting. That's what's new. But almost every player on your team this year is not going to be a rookie unless you just went complete rebuild.
If you got an all-rookie team, you got a problem, my guy. I'm sorry.
So almost every player is not going to be a rookie, and those players are still this time is still super impactful for how you're building your roster. So it'll be good to look at some non-rookies today and maybe pull out some buys and sells.
Yeah, it's kind of just a gut check, buy, sell, price check episode. Like, let's just see where we are on a couple guys. Kind of start thinking towards our strategy. What are we doing with some of these veterans leading up to the rookie draft? So I'm excited. I think we've got some interesting takes, especially when we get to tight ends. I think that was a fascinating one to me when we get there. Right, that's going to be really interesting. Yeah, I really like this. So we'll get into that. But first, we have two pieces of news, actually. The first one happened before Josh and I recorded the other day, but we kind of just forgot about it because Jamar Chase and T. Higgins got their Brinks trucks full of money, which, Landon, you didn't get to talk about that either. So if you have thoughts on that, please let us know.
Gosh.
But the news was Cooper Kupp signed with the Seahawks, which we kind of just completely skipped over, forgot to mention it. That's not a nothing signing. I'm kind of surprised that it happened because they already have a slot receiver and a dang good one in JSN. So this was really really weird to me, kind of annoying because I have a whole lot of JSN. Not that I'm worried about him, but
I mean, it's definitely
weird.
something. It's definitely not. As someone who was all in on JSN last year, that one worked out really well. I am cooling on him a bit this year with Sam Darnold. Not that I'm out, but I'm cooling. I'm not as high as I was last year. But this is weird. I mean, there's a lot of overlap in their games, and Cooper Kupp is still really good. He fell out of favor. I don't know what it was. The Rams were done with him, but he's still talented.
Crazy.
Like he's getting older. He's gonna miss 5 games probably, but I mean he still has skills, and they kind of overlap with JSN. So I think it's probably just the Seahawks. They're like, we got rid of Lockett, we got rid of DK, and this is the best option if we're going to try to go elsewhere in the draft. So I think that's kind of what it was, but a real contract too. I mean, 3 years, $45 million is the last I saw. Is that what you have?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't looked super in depth at it. I don't know what the guarantees look like. Let's go to a league where I have Cooper Kupp. I think I only have him in one league.
But I mean, Cooper Kupp, he's from
peek at his
from up there. He went to school at Eastern Washington, so I think this is kind of a homecoming. It might be like his hometown team, and maybe they were the only team willing to give him 3 years.
Yeah.
I don't know what the final decision making was on that, but
I was wondering if it was almost like a spite decision from Cooper Kupp, like the Rams are going to just toss me aside like this. I'm going to go to the Seahawks.
That could be true.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not panicking on JSN either. Like I think especially after what happened last year, like he established himself as clearly better than both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. He's clearly better than Cooper Kupp. Yes. And I think he can play on the outside, which they're probably going to use him more in an X role, not taking away his slot entirely. But I think he is more than capable of doing that. He's an excellent route runner. He's a better separator, great hands, quicker than you would think. So I'm not panicking, and he's not tiny either. Like he's 6 foot, like almost 200 pounds. Like he can handle an X workload for sure.
And also Cooper Kupp, he's going to miss time. Like, he's been banged up the last several seasons, so
yeah,
he's going to miss time. And in that time, we're going to see.
You're going to have Cooper Kupp like weeks 1 to 3, and then you might have him again weeks 13 to 17.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. Other piece of news was about the Vikings. Apparently, it came out today that they are not pursuing Aaron Rodgers at all. Not to say, I guess they didn't rule out that they would get him, but they're not offering him a contract, nothing like that. So it was kind of weird the way they said it, but the gist of it was we don't want him.
Yeah, you last week were really kicking the tires. You're a J.J. McCarthy owner, and you were kicking the tires on some trades. And I just said, dude, I'm not doing anything until I figure out what the Vikings do. And now we kind of have that answer. And this is great news for him, obviously.
Which it muddies the water. It muddies the water even more for me because you're like, dude, do not trade him unless you get kind of X, Y, or Z offer, and they're like you're holding for big offers, which I don't fault at all. Like he could end up, we don't know for sure, but what if he ends up being a top 10 quarterback in Dynasty at the end of this year, which is a possibility.
I mean, he could easily, with that situation, that coach, he could easily be ahead of guys like Bo Nix, Drake May, Kyler, guys who he's behind right now. He could jump those guys with that situation. The question is he good? We don't know that, but I mean, with that coach in that situation, he's got a great chance. He's got a great chance. He's not a guy I would be looking to trade right now, I don't think. Now, you're in a weird situation. You have four quarterbacks in that league, so that's a little different.
Yeah, it's not I don't believe in J.J. McCarthy trying to sell him. It's I have 4 starting quarterbacks in this league. I need a running back or some kind of skill player type of situation. So that's the reason I was kind of kicking down the road. But you and Josh both were like, the offers I got were good very fair offers. They're like, I don't really love that for you. Don't sell him. I'm like, okay, I got to start somebody in this league.
But the thing about that is, you don't have to start somebody next week. So you can wait to trade JJ in August.
No, we got
see
8
who's
months.
Healthy and who didn't get replaced, and a real good option. Whereas you trade for Josh Jacobs right now, and then the Packers draft somebody, and you're pissed.
Yeah. And the main thing I was looking for too is kind of rookie picks. But I mean, I kind of agree with what y'all were saying. Is what advantage do you have now in adding a mid-first round pick and say the landing spots don't turn out the way you were hoping? Well, now you've traded J.J. McCarthy and you're stuck with a running back in a timeshare or something like that. You probably should have just held McCarthy and gotten somebody better closer to the season.
So, there's some advice wrapped into news for the people.
Even I go to you guys for advice all the time because we're good fantasy players around here, I would say.
That's what we do.
We say that to say great news for J.J. McCarthy. Good news for the Vikings organization, I would say, because for your guys' sake, you don't want Aaron Rodgers. That's not good for you, I don't think.
The sneaky winner in all this is Brett Favre. He doesn't have to watch Aaron Rodgers do exactly what he did every step of the way. So, good for Brett.
And then, what did Brett Favre eventually get? Was he insider trading or something like that, or tax evasion?
It was
I think
tax fraud. The people in Mississippi,
tax fraud. I think
it's all alleged, but Anyways, we don't have to get into that. We don't.
Aaron would have absolutely done that if he'd gone to Minnesota. Okay, let's look into some guys we were kind of evaluating, looking at where the market is. A lot of the market share numbers we were looking at come from Keep Trade Cut. I always put a disclaimer when we talk about Keep Trade Cut. We do not use Keep Trade Cut as a reference or where we get our own ideas from. We use it as a community litmus test, seeing where they are. This is not our opinions. This is the community opinions. And then we look at that and then we combine it with our own and seeing who is actually looking at, in our opinion, a value win versus value losses. So that's kind of where we are. Let's start with quarterback. Each of us brought a buy. Each of us bought a sell. Landon, do you want to start with your buy first?
Yes. So some context for this. Now is the time, if you are a contender, now is the time where you can really capitalize on veterans because their price is going to get much higher. Like we talk about in fantasy or in Dynasty, the older that you get, your price goes down. That's true year over year, but it's not true within the year. Right now, if you get a veteran quarterback who's not going to get replaced, in September they're going to be worth more just because that's when the points start coming in. A guy I think is a buy. He's at QB 17. I don't know exactly where he finished last year, but he finished really high. Baker he's not 37. He's 29. He'll be 30 when the season starts. Quarterbacks play, not including the crazy outliers. Quarterbacks are good till they're 36 nowadays. They're going to be fine.
He finished at QB4.
He was QB4 last year. Guys, we play Dynasty. If you are in your mind playing Dynasty in an 8-year window, you're never going to win a championship. We play in 3-year windows. So some of the guys ahead of Baker, I really like. I like Michael Penix. I like J.J. McCarthy. I really do. I like those guys. Do I think they're going to score more points than Baker the next 3 years? I don't. And the reason I play in 3-year windows is because I basically trade every player on my roster within 3 years. So, there's very few guys that I'm going to have for the next 6 years, right? Baker's a guy
you're not a loyalty player,
not.
For sure.
I am not. You'll see that when it gets to my sell. I think Baker's a guy. Over the next 3 years, could I see him finishing in the top 12 all 3 years, the next 3 years? Yes. Could I see him finishing top 8 a couple of those seasons? Yes. And right now, you can get him at QB 17 prices. Right now, he's going as a mid-4th round startup pick. And I think that's a big hit for Baker. The last thing I'll say about Baker is I know he lost his OC this year, but I still think he's going to produce. They bring back Godwin, and I still think he's going to produce. I think a lot of the same stuff can be said about Jared Goff as well. I think they're kind of in the same boat, and he's actually lower than Baker is, according to Keep Trade Cut at least. So I think both those guys are people you can go out and get.
Yeah, which we don't. Jared Goff is probably a perennial buy for me.
He's just always a buy.
He is.
He's Chris Godwin.
He's not my quarterback.
He's Chris Godwin.
Brought, but yeah, he is. He's always a buy. Okay, the next buy for me is going to be Dak Prescott. That's my guy that I'm buying.
Yeah.
I know you don't. You're not a Cowboys fan, so you will not be buying. But at quarterback 22 prices, I will be buying because Dak, when healthy, he's always good. He's always good for fantasy. He's at quarterback 22. He consistently puts up 18 to 20-something points a game. This past year was a little rough, but he got banged up. The offense was shaky at best. So I'm just not worried. We're actually due because Dak always does this. He goes top 5 quarterback, bad season. Top 10 quarterback, bad season. Top 10 quarterback, bad season. We just had the bad season, so we're due for another top 5 finish from Dak. The Cowboys are going to put some pieces around him. You still got CeeDee Lamb. They're going to improve the running game. I'm not worried about Dak. And at quarterback 22, you've got him behind Bryce Young, Jared Goff. I do think he is better than Jared Goff. You've got him behind a rookie Cam Ward. I don't know if I'm taking Cam Ward over Dak Prescott. I don't care where he goes. And then, obviously, that's when you get into I would have him close to Baker.
Yeah, I mean,
probably I would give the nod to Baker, but I would have him right there with him.
I think these 3 guys, they're kind of all in similar positions. Like Baker, Goff, and Dak. Guys, we play in 3-year windows, not 10-year windows. So I'm in on all these guys.
They're all 29 and 30 years old.
And these are not, like, running backs. If you're buying veteran running backs at this time, you have to worry about them getting replaced. These guys aren't getting replaced. There's 0 chance any of those guys get replaced in the draft. So you can buy them and know they are going to go up in value. I promise you. Right now, they're at QB 20, QB 22, and QB 17. In September, nothing will happen. Yeah. They will play no games until then, and they'll all be higher than that. They're going to go up in value.
Yeah, every single one of them. Okay, I'm going to do my sell first because your sell is far spicier than mine is, and there's probably a few more things to talk about. But mine, I feel like he was a popular guy to say sell last year, and he's still a sell to me to this day. It's C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
They've got him. Keep Trade Cut has him at quarterback 8. So he is right behind Justin Herbert and ahead of Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bo Nix, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray. I'm not even sure he's better than Purdy or Penix. Do you know what C.J. Stroud averaged points per game last year?
I don't. Tell me.
13.
I was thinking 16. Wow.
Yeah.
I was thinking
13.5 points per game. I understand his weapon. He had some weapons get hurt over the past year. But still, man, if you're going to be a top-end quarterback, I don't care if your weapons get hurt. You'd better be better than 13 points a game.
Yeah, and he has no rushing upside. Yeah, he is a sell. He's absolutely a sell. And what I'm looking at on Keep Trade Cut, I guess it just it updates all the time. It has Caleb and CJ 1 point off out of they're both at 6,700 or 6,776 for Caleb and 6,775 for CJ. So they're right there. Do you remember my prediction last offseason?
That was it. That Caleb. I don't remember. I knew it was something.
Caleb would be
related.
going higher than C.J. Stroud. They're right back to back, and Caleb was bad. Imagine if Caleb was good and got Ben Johnson. He'd be going way ahead of Stroud. So
Caleb was bad, but still has rushing upside.
right.
And he just increased. Yeah, I would prefer Caleb Williams straight up to C.J. Stroud. I'm going to be honest with you. I would prefer Drake May straight up to C.J. Stroud. I don't think it's a huge gap between him and Bo Nix, Jordan Love, Kyler Murray. Like, if I can down tier to one of those guys and get something on top of C.J. Stroud, I'm doing it every single time.
That's a great one.
It's not even a question. Like, I would down tier to Kyler. I would down. Look at your buy and my sell. If I can down tier from C.J. Stroud to Baker Mayfield, because you can, based on these rankings, you can get something significant on top of Baker Mayfield from C.J. Stroud. Yeah.
Guarantee
I'm doing that every single time.
106, something like that. Yeah, that's a deal I'm looking to make.
That's a 10 out of 10. I'm making that.
So for my sell,
right, your sell.
My sell comes with a caveat. This is my second favorite player in the league, but QB1, Jaden Daniels has. I love the guy. He is my second favorite player. I do not think he should be QB1 in Dynasty. I do not. If you can trade him straight up for Josh Allen, I would do it. If you can make a lateral move and get something on top of Lamar, I would do it. And if you can go according to Keep Trade Cut, now maybe your league mates are not abiding by this, maybe not. You can get a mid-late first, like the 106 through 109, on top of Joe Burrow for Jaden Daniels right now. If you can make those deals, I am very interested in all of the above. Now, if I'm trading Jaden, this is my caveat that comes with it. I'm not going any lower than Jalen Hurts. Like, I'm not looking to down tier 3 tiers from Jaden. I'm not looking to do that. I'm looking to down tier to a mid first round startup pick plus something good on top. I'm looking to go to Joe Burrow. I'm looking to go to Lamar. If you really feel frisky, if you want to go to Jamar Chase plus a mid first, something like that. Those are the deals. I'd probably be looking for more than a mid-first on top of Chase. But those are the deals I'm looking to make with Jaden Daniels. I'm not looking to move to a second-round startup pick. Definitely not a third-round startup pick. But if you can make one of these lateral-ish moves and then add a good bit on top, I just don't think he should be QB1. I love the guy. But there's going to be regression this year because of just the sophomore slump. Even if he turns out and in year 3 he's excellent again, his value might dip this year just because of that. Just because of the people are not baking in a sophomore regression, which very well could happen. Not everybody does, but it very well could happen. And this also might be a touch in the we let the postseason affect our fantasy value, and that's never the best place to be where you're letting the postseason affect how you view a guy. Because he was so great. If I could make one of those lateral moves, Allen, Lamar, Burrow, even Jalen Hurts, and get a bunch on top or just get to Josh Allen, I feel really good about that.
Yeah, no, obviously I'm a Josh Allen guy, so if anybody wants to give me Josh Allen for Jaden Daniels, I'm absolutely here for it. Your boy will take it every time. But I do agree with you that it's the caveat. Like, I am perfectly happy slightly down tiering from Jaden Daniels because Jaden Daniels is going to be a guy who has perennial top 5 upside. Like, he's going to be like a Lamar to where if he's top 5 for the next 6 years, I'm not going to be surprised whatsoever. But I don't want to. So, like, I'm okay down tiering to a Hurts or a Burrow though, because those are also perennial top 5 guys, especially Burrow right now. Did you see what they paid T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? And do you see how much money they have left over for the defense? None. It's none.
Yeah.
So he is going to have to throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns a year. But I'm not tearing down to a Caleb
No.
Williams or even a Drake May. As much as I like those guys, I'm not tearing down to a Jordan Love. I don't care what's on top of it. Like,
No.
Are you going to give me Jordan Love and Jamar Chase? Okay, I'll make that tear down.
No. I'm not moving past, like I said, the middle of the first round. Even a late first, I'm not even interested in that. I'm not even interested in going to Justin Herbert. I'm really not. Like, I'm fine with down tiering to get to the middle of the first round plus a good bit. Like, I was just typing stuff in.
Or equivalent.
Yeah. I was
player.
just typing stuff in the trade calculator on Keep Trade Cut, and it said Burrow and Goff was fair. If I could get Burrow and Goff, please, definitely I would do that.
Yeah, because if you're looking at that, say Jaden Daniels is your only quarterback on your roster. You hit on that pick.
Great.
Awesome. But he's your only good quarterback you've got. If you go to Burrow and Jared Goff, you're contending, my guy. You just completely solved your quarterback room. Completely solved. It is no more
That
issues.
type of trade, Jaden could be the QB1 next year in year 2, and if you made that deal, you could still come out winning the deal. Like if Burrow's the QB3 and Goff is the QB9, you won the deal. Like, because Burrow's still young, Goff has several years.
Because
yet.
you got two guys that average 18 to 23 points a game for one guy that is going to average 25 points a game.
Yeah. Like, I love Jaden. I love Jaden. If you can get a lot on top of Burrow or a lot on top of Hurts, like if you could go get Hurts and Baker, man, I would.
Oh my gosh.
I feel
dude.
great about that.
Again, that is a league winning move. And that's something I meant to say at the beginning of this video too, is like with these veterans, this is where a lot of dynasty leagues are won.
Yes.
Is buying low and getting good value on some of these older guys. This is how you win dynasty leagues, is that. And it's not to say like completely sink your future value by any means. Like, no, I'm not trading away like any like young talent, but like it's these little value wins on the older guys that are going to produce for 2 years. That's where you're going to win.
Think about if you would have gone out and bought Baker and Goff at this time last year. I mean, they both went up a ton. And I would have thought it would have corrected more than it has, and it just hasn't. So, yeah, I think you can, if you want to move to the middle of the first round or better, I'm fine with selling Jaden. Don't do it for anything less, though.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to running backs. I'll start with my running back buy. And I think it's because I think the community's... I don't think he's hugely undervalued by the community, but I still think it's worthy of a mention just because of the talent and who he is. It's Breece Hall.
Yeah.
The guy is... He's still the RB6 on Keep Trade Cut, but in overall rankings and value, he's kind of gone way down, and I get it. He had a rough season last year. He's lower because he is on the last year of his contract, but he's going to get a new contract. Breece Hall is not going to go out there and be getting a 1 year prove it deal. Like, no, he's an incredible player. So I'm not super worried there. With a new coach, Aaron Glenn, I feel like Aaron Glenn's going to run the ball a lot. I really think he will. And Breece Hall can handle a full workload. The only thing people are terrified of Justin Fields not dumping it off to him. I don't really know. Have like a yes or no to that. I mean, I know Breece Hall is good. That's my answer. Breece Hall is awesome.
Yeah, it does feel like people are really low on him compared to where they were last year. Last year at this time, I said he was going to be the Dynasty RB1 after the season. Now, that was wrong, but I was super high on him.
Yeah.
And, yeah, people are way down on him, but I'm not into buying a ton of running backs right now just because we don't know who's going to get replaced. He's a guy I feel very strongly he's not going to get replaced. They took two. We talked about it in the episode last week. They took 2 running backs in the draft last year, and he's really good. I feel really secure about him. So he's a guy I would definitely be willing to go out and buy because I wouldn't be shocked if he was RB4 this year. And at his age, if he's the RB4, he's going to hold his value and probably go up, especially after he gets a contract. Because another thing, for a few years when the running back market was down, I at least felt a little weird when a guy had to go to a second team. A running back had to go to a second team. There wasn't a ton of success stories, it didn't feel like. Well, that changed last year. Now it's like,
we just all smashed.
Yeah, now it's like, oh, second team, I don't care. Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. So even if he has to leave the Jets after next year, who cares? I feel great about that. Like, it's going to be a team who really wants to bring him in and use him. So, yeah, Breece Hall's a guy I feel comfortable with.
And I think we've forgotten a little bit how much of a talent Breece Hall is. Like, Breece Hall is up there with, like, Jonathan Taylor level talents. Like, he's insanely good.
He is. He was that guy. He is that guy.
So that's my buy is Breece Hall. Landon, hit us with your buy.
I'm going to get super boring, but boring wins. Sometimes in Dynasty Fantasy Football, boring is what wins. And you know who's boring? David Montgomery. But you know who always scores touchdowns and is going to get 40% of the snaps on that Lions offense? David Montgomery. Like last year, I was buying him everywhere I could. I was buying him. That turned out great. I know he got hurt there at the end and he wasn't there for the playoffs. So that kills you. I get it. But what was he when he got hurt? I mean, he was a top 10 running back in a great running back year where no one was hurt.
He's a top 10 running back behind the Dynasty RB1. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs is the Dynasty RB1.
Yeah.
And he's top 10 behind him.
That's another reason I like buying Montgomery right now. I don't think he's going to be replaced. Not because he's so great, but because he's already been replaced. He got replaced, and he was still an RB1. Guys, he's got a couple years left.
His replacement's there, and his replacement's incredible.
I know what you're thinking. Oh, but after he got hurt, Jahmyr Gibbs was so good. You know what else happened last year? They extended him. They love David Montgomery. Dude, they think he is Barry Sanders. I don't fully get it. Do I think they would be better if they gave Gibbs 75% of the snaps? Yes, I do. But you know what they're going to do? It's going to drive people crazy. It would not shock me if the first running back on the field for the Lions next year, week 1, first drive, is David Montgomery. And people are going to be like, what?
It happens every game.
What? Jahmyr Gibbs was so good. They love him. Buy him.
It's kind of like what happened back in the day when Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram were in their prime. Is like everybody knew Alvin Kamara was the better player, and he scored way more fantasy points. And it's not to a lesser extent because David Montgomery's better than Mark Ingram, but like Mark Ingram started every game. Drive 1, Mark Ingram got the ball like 6 times on one drive, and it happens the same way. And I know Gibbs is better. And every time that David Montgomery misses a game, Jahmyr Gibbs scores like 38 points for fantasy. So, like, Gibbs is better. Everybody knows this. They know this. The Lions know this. But they're not going to stop giving Montgomery the ball. They think they have Barry Sanders in Gibbs, and they think they have Walter Payton in David Montgomery. That's what they think they have.
Guys, they love him. They love him. Just go buy. He's a late 8th round startup pick right now. Late 8th. And he's going to be the.
I mean, what do you think pick wise he goes for? Do you think can you trade the 202 and go get David Montgomery?
Yeah, probably.
I would do that.
Probably, and yeah, I would. There's a 95% chance that the draft lays out in a way where I would do that. Like if everybody gets a great landing spot, sure. But
okay, then yeah. But have you ever seen a draft class where every single running back, all 10 of them, get a great landing spot?
Some of them are going to get really bad.
There's not 10 great landing spots.
I just think if he's healthy, he's going to be somewhere between running back 8 and running back 14. And people are going to be shocked again. And I'm just going to be standing here going, yeah, I told you this 2 years ago. I told you it last year. I told you it this year. They love the guy. They extended him last year. He got an extension.
I have two dynasty teams where I have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I start both of them every week.
You can absolutely start both of them.
And I win games.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
I win games.
Crazy. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that buy. So we're buying Breece. We're buying David Montgomery. I am selling this in the Dynasty community is blasphemy. This is a blasphemous thing to say. I'm selling Bucky Irving.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. You can hate me, and I will understand it. But I am selling Bucky. And the reason being is how high Bucky is. He's not on keep, trade, cut. He's right behind Breece Hall. But he's basically value even with Breece Hall. I see a whole lot of people rank Bucky ahead of Breece Hall. Like other guys that I'll watch on YouTube or listen to on podcasts, they put him ahead. I know Bucky's good. I understand he's good, but he's small. It's in a weird offense with the Buccaneers where they do like to split touches with Rachaad White and even Sean Tucker sometimes. He's kind of like Kyron in a way to me, to where the draft capital too is something to pay attention to. Like, even if they love him, they can get rid of him in a heartbeat. Not saying they will, and they definitely are not going to next year. I think he's definitely locked in for one, probably 2 more years for sure. But running back 7, dude, with this class incoming, 7, sometimes 6 people have got him at. It's just too rich for me. I am sorry, but I can't do it. I can't get behind that.
I don't know if I would go as far as to say he's a sell, but I am nervous. He was uber efficient last year. I mean, like, efficient doesn't cover it. He was like Devon Achane his rookie year last year.
Yeah.
Can he do it again? I mean, Achane was great again. I think there's a really good chance Bucky Irving is a running back 1 if healthy over the next 3 seasons. A top 12 option. I just don't know if they're going to be as efficient. I would love, guys, to come out and him get 70% of the snaps next year. I just don't think it's going to happen. They're gonna keep running Rachaad White.
This is not I don't want it to happen. But he's 190. He's never going to handle a full 3-down workload. He's never going to do that. Not at 195 pounds.
Yeah.
I think it's more of it's just to capitalize on the moment. And if I can up tier from Bucky Irving to, if I can trade Bucky Irving for Breece Hall straight up,
yes,
I'm doing it.
I would do that.
Absolutely. I see people rank Bucky over
if you
Breece
can get
Hall.
something,
I can't get behind that. Like,
if you can get something
that.
on top of Jonathan Taylor, if you could trade him for the 102, maybe even the 103.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yeah. Like,
I definitely
think there's running backs in this class.
I definitely do it for the 102.
Obviously Genty, but like there's running backs.
Probably do it for the 103 and maybe even the 104. Like,
There are 2, probably 3 running backs that post draft are going to jump Bucky Irving in value, just based on where they get landing spots.
Yeah.
This is not an I hate Bucky Irving take. It is not that at all. Please do not shoot me, because I've never seen there's been fantasy darlings before. I don't think I've ever seen anything like Bucky Irving sweep the fantasy community as much people love him. And I get it. I totally get it. But I just think it's take the momentum and cash in while you can.
2 things are possible. One is he is the guy we saw last year, and he's just going to be a stud. That's possible. Another thing that's possible, which I think your thought is this is probably more likely, this is the highest his value ever is.
Yeah.
And you can capitalize right now. And I think that definitely could happen. But,
yeah.
I have an observation, or I have a prediction. And then the people at home can just make of it what they will, and then I'll tell you kind of my running back selling strategy right now. My prediction is this. James Cook does not score 16 touchdowns this year. Make of that what you will. Okay? I look around at other running backs and I'm thinking, none of these guys I'd really like to have over him. But my prediction is he doesn't score 16 touchdowns again. So my kind of idea for selling running backs right now is I'm fine with selling about anyone other than the top guys for value equivalent players at other positions. Like I'm not really looking to down tier within running backs right now or use somebody to go get a better running back. But if I can move on from Chase Brown, I've mentioned these guys before, from Chase Brown, from Tyrone Tracy, from even like a Joe Mixon, some of these guys that I think might get replaced, if I can move from them to a receiver, to a tight end and tight end premium, if you can use, my goodness, if you can use one of those, if you can use Chase Brown plus and go get a Dak Prescott like we talked about, go get a Jared Goff like we talked about, those are the moves I'm looking to make right now as far as running back sales. Just because, again, somebody who we think would never get replaced is going to get replaced, and you are going to be broken-hearted over it. You are going to be pissed about it because it just tanks your team's value. So if I can move to a different position, I'm comfortable with doing that with about everybody other than the top 5 or 6 guys.
Yeah, that was the thing I liked before the show that you said is like, you're like, I want to put a name here, but my sell really is just everybody that you're not sure, everybody that you're sure isn't going to get replaced. Like, sure, Bijan Gibbs, by default, David Montgomery, and Saquon. They're not getting replaced.
They're not going to get replaced.
Everybody else can get replaced.
I'm telling you, like, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be like somebody's going to get so mad.
It's
like the Colts are going to draft somebody, and everybody's going to flip out. They're going to lose their minds, and I'm going to lose my mind too. I'll lose my mind if that happens. But
if Quinshon Judkins is a Colt, like the fantasy community is going to flip.
Guys,
on
you
his head.
think it can't happen? It will happen. It will happen, and we're going to hate it.
We've seen it happen
many
times.
We've seen it happen, and we're going to hate it. And not everybody is the Lions. And not every David Montgomery is still going to be relevant. I hate to say it.
It's a weird world we live in to where guys like Jonathan Taylor and Breece Hall, though I'm very confident those guys aren't going to get replaced, for whatever reason, David Montgomery is less likely to be replaced than those guys. Like, all those guys are better than David Montgomery. But I know Monty's getting
He's already been replaced.
They could.
They replaced him, and they still love him.
Yes. They replaced him with one of, if not arguably, the best running back in football, and he still gets his touches. I love David Montgomery is my Bucky Irving. I love that guy. I used to, if you think back, Landon, do you remember way back in the day? This is back when you and I were still in college. We actually didn't like David Montgomery. This was when he was on the Bears.
He was not good.
We hated him.
He was not good.
No, he was terrible. He was terrible on the Bears. We despised him, tossed him aside, and he has run his way into our hearts the past few years.
That's the thing. When he was with the Bears and he was getting a full workload, he was a 3-down workhorse with the Bears. Like, go look at his snap percentages. They were giving him the ball every – it was him and Tariq Cohen. I mean, they were giving him the ball every time.
The human joystick.
And he was like –
that's a deep cut, by the way. That's a deep cut.
And he finished the year RB19. He was third in touches, RB19, and now he gets half the snaps, less than half the snaps.
He was like Najee Harris back in the day.
He gets half the snaps or less than half the snaps, and he's RB7. It's like, wow, it's all about the offense. But, anyways,
yeah. All right, moving on to receivers. Landon, who are you buying at wide receiver?
So, I get it. He's coming off an injury. I thought his value would have bounced back more by now, and we're probably looking at a suspension. But let's not forget what Rashee Rice was doing the first 4 or 5 games last year. Ben, we came on this show and we told the people there were 3 guys that we said, look, we were kind of wrong. Go all in. It was Nico, it was Devon Achane, and it was Rashee Rice. I think because of the injury and because the Chiefs' offense didn't explode last year like people thought it would, people have forgotten what Rashee did the first few games last year. He was awesome. He was awesome. Starting this year, I mean, now they both may be suspended. Xavier Worthy is not the wide receiver 1 in Kansas City. Rashee Rice is.
Worthy did get off no charges pressed. Apparently, it was like a phony thing. Somebody was trying to extort him.
They just said,
as far as it looks right now,
they just said he's a Chiefs receiver. They'll believe anything I say, because they all do something.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have a history.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, but he's not the wide receiver 1 in Kansas City. He's a great weapon and he's a good dynasty asset. But Rashee Rice, I think, is still a great dynasty asset. And he's going at wide receiver 19 right now. He's sandwiched in between Devonta Smith, Jordan Addison, and Zay Flowers. I would take him a round and a half before any of those guys.
Yes,
I would take him in the 3rd round, and right now they have him as a early fifth round pick. And I'd take him in the 3rd round. Late 3rd, probably.
Yeah, and I feel like it's more than – he only played 3 games last year, which is like you could say is a small sample size. But I would argue it's not, because he ended the season, his rookie campaign, on fire. He went 24, 14, 18, 24, 11, 17, and then in the playoffs, 10, 12,
he was great
8,
in the playoffs,
27, and then started right back up, and then obviously picked right back up in 2024, 17, 18, 29 points.
Yeah, his injury is –
he hasn't scored less than 10 points in like a year and a half.
Right. His injury is not a career alter. He's going to be really good. Travis Kelce has lost a step.
No.
They both operate in the middle of the field. And the Chiefs they were already relying more on Rashee Rice last year. That's just going to continue. Now, will he miss the first 2 to 4 games? Maybe. That ruling still hasn't come out. Maybe it's the year after this. Who knows? But I think this is probably the best price you will be able to get him at in the next 4 years right now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that take. My buy is a guy that you may say is kind of too late to buy him, but if I'm looking at community rankings, no, you can still buy him. I was listening to one podcast. They were saying, like, if you bought low on DJ Moore, congratulations, you won the lottery. No, right before I looked at this video, he's still wide receiver 23 on Keep Trade Cut. That doesn't feel like a winning the lottery pick. He's behind Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, right behind Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. I would at least put him right behind Rashee Rice. And, like, it's a relatively significant value bump behind Rashee Rice. What we keep saying 3-year windows? Do you mean to tell me in the next 3 years, even looking at Rome Odunze is wide receiver 17, there's a 6-spot difference between him and Rome. You asked me, and I don't disagree, who's going to score more the next 3 years? Is it going to be Rome or is it going to be DJ Moore? It's probably going to be DJ Moore.
Yeah. In a vacuum, I do prefer Rome. I do. But this has them as a...
I do too. Like, I'm not saying you should draft DJ Moore above Rome.
But this has them as a round and a half difference. And I think that's too much. I mean, DJ Moore... Ben, let me ask you a question. Did the Bears get a new coach? Who did they get?
I believe they got the guy everybody has wanted for the past 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, Ben Johnson. Was he any good last year or the past few years? Has he been any good?
I believe under Ben Johnson, Jahmyr Gibbs has become the Dynasty RB1. Amon-Ra St. Brown went from a 4th-round pick to a top 5 Dynasty receiver. Jamison Williams has gone from nothing to incredible, and Jared Goff has made millions of dollars because of Ben Johnson.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, give me DJ Moore. Guys, he's going to be really good.
There isn't a world where I don't trade Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison. I would Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison are ahead of him in these rankings. I would add to those guys to get DJ Moore. That's where I'm at with him.
No, he's going to be 28 when the season starts. He's got 3 years. 28, 29, 30 season.
So is A.J. Brown.
He's got 3 years. He's the same age as A.J. Brown. And I know at this point in the offseason, to us, a 28-year-old is ancient at this point, right? But in September, it's not. In October, when through the first 5 games, he's averaging 19 points a game and he's wide receiver 11, it's not. You're going to want DJ Moore. DJ Moore is definitely a buy right now. Definitely a buy.
Yeah. And then he just
Especially
got a contract extension last year, I believe.
With Ben Johnson.
They brought in Ben Johnson, guys. Like, did you see what he can do with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams? It's not knocking them. Obviously, they're incredible players, but like DJ Moore can do a lot of the same things they do. Like DJ Moore is a running back that can run amazing routes. That's what DJ Moore is. You mean to tell me Ben Johnson is not going to figure out how to get him the ball 10 times a game? He's going to. Who are you selling at wide receiver at this time?
I like this guy, but I cannot get to where everyone else is on Zay Flowers. I just can't. He is too hit or miss to me. He is.
I mean, I haven't been a Zay Flowers guy basically his entire time.
I mean, I know he kind of does everything, but he's like a small guy that you expect to just be in the slot all the time, and he's boom or bust. Slot guys are not supposed to be boom or bust. But I know they move him all over the field, but that's what this guy is. And he's going right behind Rashee Rice. I like Devonta Smith more than you do. They're going like almost right next to each other. Now, Jordan Addison's going around him. I don't love Addison that much either, but, I mean, he's going ahead of DJ Moore. To me, he's similar. His outlook is similar to Jalen Waddle, and I think I'd prefer Waddle. I'd prefer some of these rookies that are coming in. Like, I think Flowers, if you are in a shallow league, you can't have him. He's just not worth that price in a shallow league. He's just not. Because I want somebody with a higher season upside. Now, he has the in-game upside like crazy. I want somebody with a higher season upside than him. I would definitely be moving to DJ Moore or somebody if I could in a shallower league. In a deep league, obviously, you feel good about him as your wide receiver 3 or flex. If he's your wide receiver 2, you're okay. There's just other guys below him I would prefer. I'd prefer some rookies. If I could move him for a rookie pick, I feel good about that. And I just feel like I could go get Chris Godwin and get a lot on top for Zay Flowers, and I'm not sure there should be that big of a gap between the two, in all honesty. So,
no. I'm a big Chris Godwin fan too. So,
yeah.
All right, my sell is kind of a tough one. If you've listened to me for any extent of time on the podcast, you know that I actually do like this guy a whole lot for fantasy, and I do not disagree with his ranking whatsoever. I think this is right where he should be ranked, but I think this is and it's a rare thing that I recommend, but I think this is a good opportunity now that T. Higgins just got his contract. I think you've got a window where you can use him as a tier up. People always say to tier down in fantasy, which I typically agree with. Now, there's some tier downs I would be okay with. Like if you can get, we just talked about it, like a DJ Moore plus, that's something I would be interested
Rashee
in.
Rice plus.
I'm not interested in tiering down Rashee Rice plus, I'd be definitely
I'm not
interested
interested
in
to tier
that.
down.
I'm not interested in tearing down. Yeah, no, they're really close. I'm not interested in tearing down to like a Zay Flowers or a Xavier Worthy plus or a Jordan Addison plus. I'm not interested in that at all. But there's a few names I'm interested in tearing down to. But my main thing right now with T. Higgins and securing the contract and everybody knowing how much they're going to have to throw is I think it's a good opportunity to tier up. I think you can add a little bit to T. Higgins right now and go get a Drake London. Or maybe if you want to take a shot on a Marvin Harrison
That's what
Jr.,
I was thinking.
Now's your time to flip T for Marvin. And flip T for Marvin right now. I think I really like those moves right now. It's rare that you tier up, because T is usually a guy you want to tier down to from some of these guys, but this is a weird opportunity that I like to tier up from it. And I'm not saying like sell him because I'm not selling him because I'm worried about him. I think T. Higgins is going to be his typical self. He's going to go out there and he's going to have 18 points per game. Maybe he misses some time because he always gets a little bit banged up. But when he's on the field, he's going to be awesome. But you can probably get a more elite guy.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking Marvin, another guy right now, according to this, T's like a late third-round pick, startup. He's like 35th overall. That is late third. And Nico is a late second. If you could use him to get to Nico, I would smash that. I would smash that.
Yeah.
That is interesting. That is interesting. I do like the contract. I like, even though he's the wide receiver 2, I like his situation a lot.
He's been the wide receiver 2 ever since Chase comes in. He always averages 18 points a game.
No.
Or something along those lines. Like, he's always good.
He's excellent. Marv's one of those guys right now who, if you feel strongly one way or another about Marv, then you could really help your team. Like if you are just completely out on him, which I don't think many people are, but if you are just completely out on him and you're like, I'm going to sell him right now, and you could sell him right now and get a huge price for him. You could get Ladd McConkey plus right now. Or if you think, no, this guy's about to be a top 5 receiver in the league, you could get him at a huge bargain right now. Marv's an interesting guy who I'm not sure what to do with in Dynasty right now, to be honest.
Marvin is a weird, I don't disagree with his ranking right now at wide receiver 11. He is definitely a called shot guy for me. Like, you are going to have to pick a side of the fence one way or the other, and you're either going to get hurt by it or you're going to hit a home run. There's no in between right now with him.
If you just want to really believe in the prospect profile, I think I lean closer to he has a big year 2 than he's a bust. I think chances are he's going to have a pretty good year 2. I think probably somewhere between.
I think most likely we just saw his worst
Yeah,
season.
I would say we're going to get. If I had to put my money on a range, I would say somewhere between wide receiver 8 and 14, something like that. Low end wide receiver 1, high end wide receiver 2. And if you see that trajectory,
which is right where he's ranked right now.
Yeah, if you see that trajectory, I'm talking about in redraft next year. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And if you see that trajectory, you love that. You love that. If he can pull that off. If he could be wide receiver 13 this year, we'd feel really good. So, but dynasty-wise, he's an interesting one.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of where I was with Higgins. Is it's a rare opportunity that I think you should try to tier up, because his value, it's always been around anywhere between. Now, last year he was really low. He was like wide receiver 23, which I said many times in the offseason, this is ridiculous. Yeah. Now it's kind of gotten to a point, or again, I'm not out on him, but he's been shot up to wide receiver 15, which is right where I think he should be. But now that the community's gotten a little hot and bothered by him, go and try to get yourself something really nice in return.
Yep.
All right. The last thing we wanted to talk about today, and we kind of spent longer than I intended to on some of these guys, which is totally fine because there's a whole lot to talk about. But tight ends are interesting right now. And I think when we went with our buys and sells, we don't have necessarily a for sure sell this one guy, buy this one guy. It's more archetypes we're looking at with tight ends. So let's go sells first. Let's start with sells because I think it's less interesting because I do have a couple names here of guys that I just don't like where they're ranked, and then we'll talk about the buys first because I think that's more interesting to me.
You go first.
I wrote down two
You
names.
go first.
Yeah. I wrote down two names, which is Tucker Kraft and Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely is right, but like ahead of Mark Andrews. Why?
Dude, if
Mark Andrews was better.
his toe wasn't on the line, he would have called a touchdown and beat the Chiefs. That's why. In week 1 last year.
Like, okay, he had a 60-yard touchdown in week 1. He never touched that again.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay, and then Tucker Kraft. Granted, Tucker Kraft is kind of fun to watch. Tucker Kraft had some big games, but he would score he would have 2 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown on 3 targets.
Yeah.
Jordan Love spreads the ball around way too much for Tucker Kraft to be a dependable top 10 tight end. I'm sorry.
If you look at these tight end rankings, can I just sum up our buys and sells in 2 sentences here for tight ends? I'll spoil it a little bit. I know we were teasing a little bit. Our sells are all young tight ends that are not Brock Bowers and Trey McBride. And our buys are all the old tight ends.
But we said this last year.
Do what?
Yeah. But we said that last year during the season. If you don't have Bowers or McBride, you don't have a guy to build around.
That's the point. It's not that we don't like Sam Laporta. It's not that we don't like, whoever else, Dalton Kincaid. It's not that we don't like these guys. If you do not have Trey McBride or Brock Bowers, and I am going to put Hawkinson. I still feel good about him. He was hurt last year, coming off injury.
Yeah, he's the other guy that I'm not building off of him, but I'm comfortable if he's my tight end one. He's going to be
I'll
good.
put him there. If you don't have one of those 3, I'm selling all young tight ends, and I'm buying all old. Why? Because none of the other young tight ends are you building your team around. They are not man, these are my guys for the next half decade, and I'm rolling with them, and they're going to carry me. None of them can do that. They're all hit or miss. They're all if you are not in a tight end premium, let's say if you're in just a normal PPR league, not tight end premium, you're thrilled if you get 11 points out of all these guys. That's not a person you build your team around. So why would I keep some of the young guys, these Pat Fryermuths, these Isaiah Likeleys, these Tucker Krafts, like you mentioned? Why would I keep them when they're higher in value than guys like Jonnu Smith? Guys like, I know he's super old, Zach Ertz. Guys who over the next 2 years are going to outscore them. And either one, you're not building your team around. So I'm going to take one of these tight ends that has some value, trade him for Zach Ertz or Jonnu Smith, or a guy like Sam Laporta, if you can trade him for a George Kittle or something, get someone who's going to be producing highly the next 2 years, and then throw them away anyways. Because none of these guys are going to save your fantasy team. I just don't like a lot of my team value capital being tied up in tight ends right now, unless it's McBride, Bowers, or to a lesser extent, TJ Hawkinson. Just give me an old guy.
Yeah, and I was looking at some of the names here. One of the names I highlighted is Mike Gesicki. He's 29 years old, which is actually younger than some of the guys in the top 10. He's younger than George Kittle. He's the same age as Mark Andrews, who I actually like more than Isaiah Likely. I like Mark Andrews a lot. But he's younger than some of these guys. The Bengals just gave him a contract extension. They were interviewing Joe Burrow on how do we pay all these guys, and Joe Burrow mentioned Mike Gesicki in the guys. Joe Burrow likes him. The Bengals like him. They just gave him a contract extension. You know where he's ranked? Tight end 28.
Yeah.
Guys like Noah Gray, Theo Johnson, even Ben Sinnott are ahead of him. I like Ben Sinnott as much as the next guy. I liked him coming out of college. I like his athletic profile. Ben Sinnott had 5 catches last year.
I mean,
5.
I know he literally has 1 year left, guys. I get it. But Travis Kelce, like,
he was the tight end. What was Kelce last year? Was he tight end 8 or something like that?
he was higher than that.
Well, I think he was actually. He was tight end. He was tight end 5
in
PPR. Like Travis Kelce he's completely fallen off. He's fallen off a cliff, and he's the tight end 5.
Year.
You mean to tell me that you would rather have Brenton Strange on your team than Travis Kelce?
And he's going 2.
Give me 1 more year of Travis Kelce.
He's going 2 rounds behind Pat Freiermuth. I get it. Pat Freiermuth's 26, but he doesn't score points, guys. None of these guys score points.
He doesn't
like
score points.
That's
the argument.
I don't understand the.
That's the argument we're making. Is that if you can't build around any of these guys, get me the ones that score points, and it's the older ones.
I would rather pivot from one of these guys who has some value. I mean, Pat Freiermuth right now is like a 12th, 13th round startup pick. I will trade him for the value equivalent draft pick. Like if it's the 302 or something, I'll trade him for that and then go get Zach Ertz for nothing. Go get Mike Gesicki for nothing. Go get Travis Kelce for nothing. Because that guy's going to score more points than him, and you get the draft pick. You can roll the dice. And this is I will make the caveat, this is it's a good tight end class. A lot of people like them. Tight ends don't produce when they're young, typically. I mean, set Brock Bowers aside. So if there's a rookie you fall in love with and you think can be one of these guys that carries you, I'm not going to kill you for it because we all have hopes and dreams, right? But the guys that we've seen for 3 years and still don't do it, stop thinking they're going to do it. Kyle Pitts is not saving your fantasy team. Pat Freiermuth Jake Ferguson is not saving your fantasy team. He's not.
Jake Ferguson.
He's not.
He had 1 tight end 1 season. I'll give you that. He was tight end 9 2 years ago.
Yeah, but he's 7 years younger than Zach Ertz. Yeah, and Zach Ertz is going to average 4 more points a game next year. Like, give me that in a non-tight end premium league. Just pivot and go younger at receiver, go younger at running back, younger at quarterback. Great. Go with the old tight ends. They're cheap and they actually score points.
Yeah, like tight end to me is a luxury position. Like if you stumble across a Dalton Kincaid, great, you've got one.
Yeah.
But like just go get something else.
Yeah, and
I mean,
and I'll tell you,
if I'm thinking,
if you're in a real tight end premium league, like a full point or
our scramble
drill league, dude, I'm serious. If you go out and you get, I keep using Zach Ertz. Let me use Jonnu Smith. If you go out and you get Jonnu Smith right now, if he's having anywhere close to the season he had last year, right? Let's say you get to week 11, it hasn't worked out for you. You're not competing, but he's tight end 9, which is worse than he was this year. Let's say he regresses. Tight end 9, you can trade him straight up for mid to early seconds. 2 contenders. Straight up.
Yeah. Because there's a contender like, oh gosh, I need to throw him in my lineup.
You're saying, no, I can't do that.
There's going to be a contender.
Dude, he was scoring like 25 to 30.
There's going to be a contender out there who has... Yeah, there's going to be a contender out there whose tight end 1 is Tucker Kraft, and he's going to prefer to have Jonnu Smith.
Last year in that league, he was scoring like 25 to 30. I traded my late first for Mike Evans and him. And I think maybe I added a little something to that. But like, you think it's crazy? I could have traded a second straight for him. I would have done that. If he would have offered a second straight for him, he's like, I'm not going to trade Evans. I just want to trade Smith. I'd have given him a second. I would have, because I was in contention. Yeah. Like, I think we just assume because rookie receivers score points, or young receivers score points, and young running backs score points, I think we just assume these tight ends that we like as prospects always score points. Lots of times they don't. They don't score. We assume they do, and they don't. And your team could be better if you just pivot to a veteran.
Yeah, no, this is why I thought this was such a fascinating look at the tight ends. Is we said all through the season, like, if I don't have Bowers or McBride, I don't have the building piece. Well, what does that actually look like when you don't have those guys, but you have a Dalton Kincaid? That means go get an old guy.
Trade Kincaid and get,
because Dalton Kincaid is
go get Travis Kelce in a second. Go do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
And like a guy like Kelce, like, he's coming back one more year, and I feel like we know this time, like, all right, the glory days of Travis Kelce are past. But am I going to be shocked if Travis Kelce's the tight end 9? No, I actually kind of expect that.
I would be surprised if he's that low. If he's below tight end 8, I'd be surprised. If he's outside the top 8, I'd be a little surprised. And again, it's your last year.
And that puts him in the conversation with, that would put him right next to Tucker Kraft, Dalton Kincaid, Isaiah Likely. Like, Isaiah Likely, I'm not going to say, like, it can't happen, but he's going to outscore Isaiah Likely.
Like I said, it's a hard out here at the end. So sorry for that. But that is all we've got for you for this episode. Make sure wherever you're listening to the podcast, rate and review the show. The 5-star ratings, they help so much. They help with the algorithm. It's a nebulous thing. I don't even really know how it works, but I do know that ratings help. So leave us a 5-star rating review wherever you happen to be listening to the show. That will do it for this one. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, rating, reviewing, telling a friend about it. We will see you all next week when we're back talking fantasy football. Have a good one, everybody.